My Christmas? Don't even ask. It's probably the worst Christmas as a pub landlord I've had since the Plague of Locusts back in 1978. Well, it all started on Christmas Eve, let me tell you. There I was, in the bar with no customers and all my B&B rooms empty because of the increase in tearing the week before, which was unannounced, or unexpected at least. Anyway, so I'm just sat there with my Christmas bubble, my wife and her mother, who she'd broken out of a nursing home for 5 days, when there was a knock at the door. Well, would you Adam and Eve it? There's only a bloke and his wife sitting on a donkey. Couldn't believe it. Anyway, he says to me, his name's Joe, he says, "Have you got a room for the night?" I said, "Joe, you must be bleeding joking, mate. We're in tier 3. Turns out they were in tier 1. They'd come from tier 1 and they'd been travelling, and his wife was heavy with child, so they needed to stop. I said, took one look at her, I said, "Joe, heavy with child? She looks like she's about to drop, mate." Well, what could I do? I took pity on her. I said, "You can use the cowshed next door. Yeah, well, it'll give you a roof over your head at least, if you don't mind sharing with the cow." "I don't see no cow," said Joe. I said, "I'm talking about the wife. One more snowball and she's in there with you." Anyway, but I said, "Joe, the donkey will have to stay outside." "Ass," he said. I said, "Joe, I'm only trying to help." Anyway, off they jolly well trot. And I go back and sit down again. 5 minutes later, there's a knock at the door again. He says, "Can we come into the pub for some food and a stiff drink?" I said, "Joe, look, if you'd been here last week when we were in tier 2, then I could have thrown together some big pasties, which between us we could have, conjured up they were a substantial meal. But, you know what I mean, but we're in tier 3, so there's absolutely no way." Mrs. Tippett from number 9 grasped me up when I had a few lads round for a game of poker back in April. "What about a takeaway?" he says. I says, "Any food or alcohol purchased from a hospitality premises via takeaway or click and collect may not be consumed on any part of the premises, including beer gardens, as well as adjacent seating to the premises. And by that, I feel, Joe, we should include cowsheds." Well, quick as a flash, he said, if his wife was about to give birth, couldn't we classify the cowshed as a hospital, care home or supported housing as part of an extra care scheme? I said, "Mate, you're pushing it." But then I thought, well, maybe we could designate the cowshed as a workplace canteen. That is where there is no practical alternative, where alcohol is not served for consumption on the premises. He said, "Go for it, son." So I rustled up some pasties and 2 cans of pop for them. But things turned weirder in the night. In the early hours of the morning, when the baby was born, and these 3 geezers turned up from God knows where to visit the couple. They said they were wise men and went by the names of Witty, Valance and JVT. Well, I said, "Hold on, you can't go in there, you haven't got any PPE. And anyway, you're not allowed in the cowshed, as you will exceed the couple's Christmas bubble allowance. As you're clearly from different places, especially that JVT. One of them turned to me. He said, "He was a knight, for God's sake." And I said that as the baby was the son of God, the cowshed was effectively a heritage site, so the rule of 6 applied. Well, I've been a landlord long enough to know what a bunch of nutters when I see them, and it's best not to take them on. So, keeping my distance, I could see the geezers giving the baby presents. Yet each one was a different vaccine, and they proceeded to vaccinate the baby. Well, I yelled, "He's hardly high priority, he's a young kid." Well, the tall one, who looked half dead, said, as the saviour of the human race, the boy was designated critically extremely vulnerable. "Which one are you giving him?" I asked. They replied in unison, "All of them, as we don't know which one is best." Well, I didn't argue. I just shouted, "Don't any of you give any of that vaccine to my mother-in-law. Another 5 years of her is all I need." Well, at this point, I nearly lost my shit as 3 farmers turned up asking to see the baby. I said, "Are you trying to get me nicked? You can't have 9 of you congregating in a public place." And that's the last I remember. The geezer called Van Tam led me out Sparko with a vicious right hook, shouting, "I've had enough of you, the public." Van Tam? More like Bam Bam. What a bleeding Christmas. Anyway, Happy New Year. Roll on year naught, that's what I say.